Right now on Movie Review Talk, John Cho goes searching for his missing teenage daughter and who is killing the great puppets of Happytime. Hey there, movie fans. Welcome to Movie Review Talk, only on Collider. I'm your host, Scott Movie Mantz. Every week on Movie Review Talk, we review the new movies. We pick a Blu-ray for something you might have missed, and we pick something to stream, a diamond in the rough, because there are a lot of them. And here's the beauty of it, ladies and gentlemen. We are spoiler-free, so you can watch to your heart's content. You can share. Okay, this is a hint. Share Movie Review Talk with your friends. Retweet, share. Make sure you comment below and be nice. And every week I am joined by two esteemed, respected critics who also happen to be my friends. So this week joining us, she is actress and host, classy Clarke Wolfe.
Boy, hi, Scott Mantz.
Hiya, Clarke Wolfe.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here on Movie Review Talk. We got a lot to talk, and I put in a movie just for you, my friend.
You are too kind.
Also joining us, he is Scott Menzel. He is the editor-in-chief of We Live Entertainment. He is the founder of the LA Online Film Critics Society, which is the greatest film critics group that ever existed. He is my good friend, and he is the other Scott M.
Damn straight.
Damn straight.
Mantz, it is an honor to be here. I am so damn excited to be here. I've been waiting for you to ask me to come on this show, and finally the two Scotts unite on a show like this. Let's do this thing.
It's a Scott-witch.
Yeah, you're getting a sandwich. I'm sorry.
You're getting a Scott-M-wich.
Yeah.
Well, let's get right to it. Our first movie is Searching. The movie is directed by Anish Chaganty. It stars John Cho and Deborah Messing. And after his teenage daughter goes missing, a desperate father tries to look for her by tapping into her laptop to look for clues. This movie premiered at the Sundance Film Festival back in January. And wow, this is what Sundance is all about. Scott M., take it away.
I saw it at Sundance. I agree with you 100%. This is a phenomenal film, one of the best movies of the year, and talk about using technology in a movie and doing it right. This movie is intense. The first few minutes of it feel like the movie Up, Pixar's Up. And from there, you just get emotionally involved in the story. John Cho has proven once again that he has everything that he can to be a leading man. He should be in more movies. I don't know why he hasn't been in more movies, but it's ridiculous. He is so damn good, and I'm using damn a lot on this show, but he's so damn good in this movie, and it shows that he needs to be in more movies. Deborah Messing has a supporting role, also very good, a nice departure from Will and Grace, and I love what they did with the character. Some stuff goes unexpected. That's all I'm going to say because it's spoiler-free, but really, really love this one.
All right, Clarke, what did you think of Searching?
I'm not as keen on it as you are. I think maybe it's because genre is sort of like my favorite type of film, and Timur, I don't know how to say the producer's last name.
Yeah.
But he produced. Did he direct Unfriended? Oh gosh, I should have done my homework.
He did a movie. He produced he directed a movie called Nine, which was produced by Tim Burton, but I don't know what he did. Wanted?
No, I'm talking about Unfriended.
Unfriended?
Yeah, for Blumhouse.
No.
So if you've seen Unfriended, you kind of know this shtick from him.
Yeah.
Basically, we don't leave the screen. Unfriended is a straight horror movie. It's almost like a techno slasher movie. Almost. Yep. I love Unfriended. I think it's really, really good. With this one, this is obviously more of a thriller. It's tapping into that true crime element. But I will say that, like, the twists and turns for me, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, clever. Like, I was never, the movie never quite landed for me. And I don't know, I would say that maybe the reason why is because when it comes to this kind of acting, it's really, really hard to make it authentic because you don't usually, because so much of this is digital, meaning you're dealing with screens, you're dealing with Skype, you're dealing with FaceTime, you're dealing with found
TV
footage.
News reports,
Exactly. It's really, really hard to get a true authentic performance. And so one thing that kind of stood out to me that was tough was all the audio conversations when you don't see the other person sounded very, very fake to me, and that was a dead weight throughout the whole film for me.
Respect your opinion 100%. I have to say that in terms of just the sheer joy and exhilaration of seeing something completely different, a wholly original film, I'm taking your side on this, Scott M. I thought this was a bold, daring, clever, again, totally original film, experimental, but it works. You know, the gimmick, and I say the gimmick just because of the way it's done, you know, you have everything you see is on the computer screen, you see the FaceTime conversations, you see the TV news reports, nothing is live. But what makes the movie work is that it is an old-fashioned suspense thriller with unexpected twists and turns and a big surprise at the end. That's what makes the movie. What also makes the film is John Cho. It is a tour de force performance. He was terrific in this movie. Deborah Messing also terrific in a supporting role. You know, don't want to say too much about that. But like I said, you know, seeing a movie like this at Sundance, it reminded me at the time when I saw it, the last time that I really saw an experimental film was way back in 2000. Mike Figgis directed a movie called Time Code, in which the screen was split in 4 ways, and you saw 4 different characters play out their scenes at the exact same time. And I thought that was a daring film that never really went anywhere. But Unfriended and now this movie, Searching, I just thought it was an incredible, an intense movie, a mystery in the classic sense, but still one that was just so bold and daring in the way that it embraced the world we live in. And another thing about this movie is as John Cho is looking for his daughter and looking for clues, and he goes on her computer, taps in, and goes onto her Facebook page, and he reaches out to some of her friends, and you know, they're not really friends. And like yeah, do we really, like on my Facebook page I have 1,700 friends, but like I'd say maybe like 6 of them are really my friends.
I'm one of them.
And you are one of them.
Yeah.
And Scott, and you're the other. You know,
no, and that's it, man. You're done.
Wasn't there was a lot going on in this film that did you gravitate to that?
I was surprised by that too, because I'm one of the few people who actually did enjoy Unfriended as well. I did not see the second one because I heard such mediocre things about it. But the first one really, you know, spoke to me, and I thought it was really an interesting concept. But with this one, I feel like this one was a lot more story-driven and character-driven. And the effectiveness of like just taking a file from a computer and dragging it to the trash, I just felt it was so emotionally effective. I'm surprised you didn't feel that way.
Well, once again, I mean, I really feel like structurally this movie is very similar to Unfriended. The difference is, I would say, genre. So you're dealing with true crime thriller here in Searching. You're dealing with a father's plight. These are more emotionally, the emotional stakes are higher. And to confirm what I said earlier, Teamer Beck McCraw. No, I lost his name. He did produce Unfriended, and so when I saw his name on this one too, I was like, oh yeah, of course, this is his bag, and he's very, very good at it. And I do think that. So I understand you feeling compelled by the character arcs in Searching, because it's a father-daughter story, and it is, and John Cho's performance is great. That's the other part of it that I think it's really fun to compare to Unfriended, is that with Unfriended, you're dealing with 6 or 8 main characters, right? And you're bouncing back and forth between all of their stories. Whereas here, we are really anchored. We have someone to anchor the story in John Cho. I would just say that for me, as a person who loves true crime, you know, again, I found it to be clever, and I found the movie, and I loved the technology all works. I think they pull it off, but there was something about it that just didn't quite click for me. Not to say you guys shouldn't see it, because you should. Go see it, go experience the movie and decide for yourselves. But to me, it wasn't a slam dunk.
You know, the movie, I felt like it was revolutionary in some ways and it was old-fashioned in others. And the two approaches really complemented each other. The other thing about the film is for the second week in a row, you have a film centered on an Asian family. But where Crazy Rich Asians drew attention, obviously it's in the title, it's Crazy Rich Asians. This movie, the family just happened to be Asian. It could have been anybody. They didn't draw attention to it, nor should they. And I thought that was a really nice touch. Just, you know, why does it have to be just a bunch of white people? And it you know, and again, John Cho, who I mean, I really think that this was he really crushed it in this movie. What is your letter grade, Clarke Wolfe?
A B.
A B. Scott Menzel?
A-.
Yeah, I give it an A. I freaking love this movie. Searching is awesome. Make sure you search for it at your local theater, because this is the kind of film that absolutely deserves to be supported, has to be seen on a big screen, and this is the kind of movie that if we don't get support for movies like this, then we're just going to see Avengers movies all the time. And I like those movies, but I like other movies like this too. Moving on now to a movie that I thought could go either way, and now we know which way it went. This is the Happytime Murders, directed by Brian Henson, starring Melissa McCarthy, Maya Rudolph, Elizabeth Banks. That's some pretty big talent there. In the film, Melissa McCarthy plays Connie Edwards, an LAPD detective who teams up with Phil Phillips, a private eye puppet out to track down whoever is murdering the cast of a popular 80s kiddie TV show. Okay, Scott Menzel, what'd you think?
You get the sigh. As my quote says on Rotten Tomatoes, as a fan of all things puppets and Muppets, this was such a huge disappointment. I just feel like there was so much potential at times with this movie. The murder mystery angle of this movie is not new. It's rather generic, but I feel for this type of movie it could really have worked. The problem is this humor. And the humor is just so forced and relentless. And it's just like, hey, you didn't laugh at that? Here's another joke. Here's another joke. Here's another joke. And it just keeps going and going and going and going and going. And to the point where, like, even though I was somewhat enjoying the actual murder mystery story, I just couldn't get past the humor. They were just throwing it in my face and saying, you need to laugh at this, it's so funny. And it feels so outdated. It feels like something that should have came out in the 90s that might have been clever at that time, but now we have so many raunchy comedies that this doesn't even feel relevant or fresh or unique or anything. It's just a mess.
It came out in 1989.
That's right.
It's called Meet the Feebles, directed by Peter Jackson. Okay, Clarke, what'd you think?
Okay, so I told you before we started that I have a hot take on this.
Let's hear it.
Okay.
My hot take is that I kind of enjoyed this one.
Okay.
I had read the like scathing reviews and people just in the critical world really dragging this movie. Like, they were very angry at this movie. Worst movie of the year, blah, 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 blah. I don't agree with that. I saw it. Now, I will say I did not see a press screening of this. I went last night, opening night, to the AMC in Burbank. My audience was about, I'd say maybe a fourth of the way full, a third of the way full, but my audience was actually really enjoying the movie. And I think that makes a difference, because if the energy in the crowd is just, especially with a comedy, is dead weight, it could potentially affect, in a way, I'm not saying entirely, but some of how you react to the film. So I actually found myself enjoying the movie. I thought it was the right length time-wise. It's a very, very brisk 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And I will also say that I don't disagree that this movie is coming too late for like a big theatrical release. I was thinking to myself, you know, if this had been out on Netflix, what would the reaction have been? If this had been out on a streaming service, what would the reaction have been? So I'm just here to sort of moderate bring sort of the average, like I'll average your very angry reviews and sort of like balance it out a little. Because I thought it was, I enjoyed myself.
Well, first of all, there is absolutely no question that the energy in the room will affect a movie. I mean, the best example I ever had of just how the energy in a room really accentuated and elevated the performance. Scott, when we were at South by Southwest, we saw that opening night screening of A Quiet Place. Now, granted, that's a great movie.
Yes.
But the energy in the room just made it an unforgettable experience. I mean, and look, is Happytime Murders for critics? Probably not. I mean, did I laugh a few times? Sure. In the beginning of the film, just the shock of seeing like these sort of like classic style Muppets in the Henson mold, dropping the F-bomb and some of the best scenes, I would say, most of the best scenes were in the trailers and the previews, and especially the R band, the Red Band trailer that some of us saw. But it got old. It just got old. I felt that they tried so hard to be raunchy that it didn't really do anything to complement and move the story forward. You had a story that was going forward, a sort of classic film noir type of private eye movie. That's been done, but it didn't really. The only thing clever about it was what it was being told from a puppet's point of view.
Yeah.
But was that enough? It got old, and the jokes, it got old. Like it wore out its welcome very fast. And for a movie that's actually less than 90 minutes, if you take away the ending credits, it still felt long.
Well, the other problem I had with the film is that it brings up such interesting points, like the puppets being treated as second-class citizens. And it just kind of fails to address that halfway through the movie. It's like, well, just forget about this, that we brought this up right in the beginning of the movie. And that's what I'm saying about it being disappointing. That's how I would label this movie. I wouldn't say it's the worst movie of the year. I would just say it's one of the most disappointing movies of the year. Just because I saw potential.
Yeah.
And it was just the fact that everything, like you just said, Mantz, is that everything had to be about the raunchy humor. It's like they couldn't pull back and just actually focus on developing the characters and actually developing the story. It was like every time they had to go look for like one of the victims, there had to be a raunchy joke, like someone, like the crab has to say something about crabs. Like, it's like, come on, guys, like, let it go a little bit.
I have to say, it is kind of funny, like, during the gunshot scene, see the puppets like blowing the sweater. Like, that's funny.
I actually liked the crab joke.
Did you really? Did you really?
Made me laugh. Yeah. I mean, the other thing is, too, I guess I grew up with not the classic. So, of course, I grew up with classic Muppets,
Yes.
right? But I also grew up with Brian Henson Muppet movies, whether it's Muppet Treasure Island or Christmas
Muppet
Carol.
movie. Yeah.
Well, Brian Henson. So I'm talking about his take on the
alternate
Muppets.
stuff,
Do you know what I mean? Like later on, and not the Jim Henson stuff. And so I do think that because I don't know, I felt a little bit like I was recognizing Brian Henson, director, sort of giving the middle finger to this world that maybe he felt a little trapped by. I don't know. It didn't grate on me the way that I think it grated on other people. I don't disagree that, the idea that they really do address and start out by saying that puppets are treated differently. Like, you either need to commit to that or not. And I don't disagree that was a very big missed opportunity, because the Muppets are so well known for making poignant, commentary, and so they could have. These are not Muppets, obviously, but they could have had a little bit more.
See, I agree. That was a great subplot about the Muppets being treated as second-class citizens. We've seen other films with completely different kinds of characters where if they're not human, they're treated as second-class citizens. Look at the replicants in Blade Runner. Look at the aliens in District 9. Now, comparing those two films to Happytime Murders, probably not a fair comparison at all. But still, that sort of plot point was something that could have given the movie a little more depth. And I also think in terms of seeing like the puppets like drop the F-bomb and swear and do other things that will make a silly string seem very different from this point forward, it actually didn't feel twisted or out there enough. And again, it all has to move the story forward, which it didn't. So, Clarke, what is your letter grade?
Yeah, I think it's like a B or a B minus. I mean, I don't know if you have to rush out to see it in the theater, but I do think that it would be a fun at-home movie, HBO, Netflix, kind of like stream it at home and whatever. But then again, if you get a good audience,
There you go. Or get a good drink.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Not that I'm condoning that.
Or if you live in California or Colorado,
Yes,
there you go.
there's some other
else.
stuff you can
Now
do.
you're talking.
Yeah.
Scott, what's your letter grade?
C-.
C-. Yeah, me too. C-. I go with the C-. Okay, moving on to a movie called Operation Finale. This is directed by Chris Weitz, who directed movies like About a Boy and Twilight New Moon. We'll forgive him for that other one. The cast is Oscar Isaac, Sir Ben Kingsley, and Melanie Laurent, based on the true story of a team of secret agents who set out to track down Adolf Eichmann, the Nazi officer who, masterminded the Holocaust, that little thing. So, yeah, they have a bone to pick, as does everybody else in the world. And it was a very famous case that went on in the 60s, and this movie finally tells it. Scott, what did you think?
Long. This is one of those movies that I feel like the story is very interesting, but it takes too long to get to the point. So you're sitting there for the first hour waiting for something to happen, and it just never does. And then by the time the second hour rolls around, you're just kind of checking your watch, hoping that this is going to end. The real struggle with this film is that it needs a 30-minute chop right in the beginning. And if it was just a tight 90 minutes, maybe a 95-minute runtime, I think it would be really effective. Because the second half is so strong, I will probably give this a passing grade, but it's not something that I think is memorable. I know Oscar Isaac gives a great performance, or Ben Kingsley does another great job again. But besides those two, I don't really think there's anything else really to sell this movie. And both of them have been in much better films. And we've seen Holocaust movies so many times before. We get at least once a year, right? We get at least one Holocaust movie.
They always get nominated for Oscars.
Yeah. And I know you can tell so badly that this movie wanted to be an Oscar movie.
Yeah.
And I just felt so bad watching this because during the first hour, I watched so many people in the theater leave and go to the bathroom and check their watches and just getting up. It's like, when you can't entertain critics and they're leaving and this is their jam, they like slow build, dramas.
Yeah.
And for so many people to be doing this and everyone to say it's flat, that's the best way to describe this as a flat movie.
Well, Clarke, it sounds like you might have dodged a bullet missing this movie, but I do have to say I agree with your points completely on this. It is a little long, and it does not realize its potential. This is a film that felt like a cross between Munich and Argo. Again, not as good as either film, but what really drove the film for me, what really made it engaging and engrossing, other than the fact that it was a true story that I really didn't know a lot about, but the performances of Ben Kingsley and Oscar Isaac. They kind of have a battle of wits going on where they're trying to get into each other's heads. And that, to me, is what made the film. That was what made it interesting, and that was the engrossing part of it. I liked the movie more than I didn't. There were things to recommend the film. And you could talk about a movie that, maybe not to pay for it in theaters, but if it comes to digital, iTunes, or eventually Netflix, Amazon, or Hulu, it is a worthy film to watch because of the performances alone. And the movie opens on Wednesday, the August 29th, not Friday, August 24th. But before you get into, nothing says Labor Day weekend like a movie like this. But I thought it was fine. I was engaged, but wasn't like a huge recommendation. But what's your letter grade on this one?
B-.
Yeah, B-. And that's really comes down to the performances. So Clarke, take that for what it's worth.
Noted.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Now, the thing about all these streaming services, that are showing the new films. So Netflix is, I feel like, they're sort of really blazing the trail with this. They had more Emmy nominations than any other network for the Emmys that are going to be in mid-September. With their TV shows, like Stranger Things and Glow and Orange is the New Black and House of Cards, and everyone knows about the shows. The shows are great. The movies, they still have yet to make a dent, make an identity for themselves in the movie world. But I think actually this year they're kind of doing that because of films like To All the Boys I've Loved Before. And the reason I say that is because this is a wonderful, lovely, delightful film that is hiding in plain sight. And unless you you see it on your queue. When you turn on Netflix, it's going to be lost. You know, I mean, I haven't seen anything about this film, and it was only because I saw a friend raving about it on Facebook. I was like, oh, let me check it out, and I watched it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good, and I said maybe we should do this as our streaming pick. But you know, Clarke, what'd you think?
Oh, I was so charmed by this movie. I really, really liked this one. And I'm tougher, not tougher, but because I was a teenage girl at one point, I feel not too long ago, but no, I feel like movies that are made for young people, whether, you know, gender is irrelevant, honestly. They sometimes don't respect or appreciate the audience,
exactly.
The intended audience. And this I found to be, first of all, the two leads I found to be so charming and incredibly talented. But also, and this is a real, I think, testament to the screenwriter and to the director. They treated these kids with respect. They treated them with affection, but they also treated them like real people. And I liked how it didn't have to be so cartoony that it was either, you know, oh, well, she used to be my best friend, but now she's mean and I hate her, you know, or it wasn't catty. It wasn't dumb. It was sweet. It was sweet, and it was the type of representation of teenagers that I think is useful. And I also think, and this is just a fun little nod for movie nerds, but they talk about 16 Candles.
Oh, yeah,
They talk about John Hughes a lot.
And then they talk about Long Duck Dong.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That was a very interesting point. And by the way, first of all, I totally forgot to mention, the movie's directed by Susan Johnson. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. And the star of the film, Lana Condor, is terrific. But finish your point.
All I was going to say is, with respect to the John Hughes of it all, you know, I really liked how the movie pays homage and tips its hat to what has come before, while also acknowledging that it's so dated. Meaning, John Hughes, I know people of a certain generation have an affection for him, and I'm sure that generations to follow will find his movies and relate to them too. But I really appreciated how this one sort of said, thank you for what you did, but let's move this ball forward.
Absolutely, completely agree. Scott, you didn't like this.
I'm the lone wolf.
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry.
Welcome to my territory.
You know,
on this one,
this is good. This is what makes a good conversation.
So my wife requested the screener for this one, and you know, we're big fans of romantic comedies. Yes, I agree to all your points. I feel like everything is John Hughes. It's one of the biggest things that annoyed me about Spider-Man: Homecoming was like, we're in a John Hughes movie. We're in a John Hughes movie. Move past it. Mm-hmm. It's over. It's done with. You know what? He made his staple. This one for me, it came across a little bit cheesy for me. I was kind of, I liked the chemistry, but I didn't necessarily buy into the concept of this movie, and I found it very hard to put myself into these characters and see myself in those roles. And that's usually not how I feel about teenage movies, is that I usually always find one character in the movie that I connect with. And I don't know. I saw this like 2 months ago, but like it was one of those movies that like halfway through it, I was like, when is this over?
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why. And I feel bad because so many people are raving about this movie, but every once in a while, you know, we don't always have to connect. And this was one of those movies where I watched it and I see the potential. I even told the PR people, they asked me like, would I write a review for it? And I said, I believe in this movie and I believe in the messages behind it. I don't want to review it.
Right.
And that's what I said, because I don't want to give it a negative review just because my opinion of it didn't justify everyone else's. I still support the idea that Asian Americans at the forefront here telling these types of stories.
Another Asian American.
And I want to see more of these. And I think it is, in some aspects, a really refreshing type of movie. It just didn't work for me. It didn't speak to me.
But you know, it occurred to me while I was watching this film that first of all, teen comedies this year have been very, very strong. and love Simon in theaters. But most of these teen comedies that are actually way above average have been on Netflix.
Because teenagers don't go to
There you go.
Good point.
This is where teenagers consume content, is on their phone or on their laptop or on their iPad.
But Alex Strangelove and this movie, The Package, and now
Set It Up.
Set It Up was fantastic.
I know. Set It Up is like...
I know you love that
I
movie.
do.
That's
I do.
a great movie. That's a great rom-com.
Did you like that one?
I didn't see
All right,
it.
You didn't
see
see
it
it?
on Netflix. It's streaming on Netflix. Clarke Wolfe, yes, Set It Up. It's terrific.
Yeah.
It is a terrific movie. Zoe Deutsch and Glenn Powell. It's
and
really,
Lucy
really good.
Liu and Taye Diggs. And I mean, again, another movie. There you go. You have a whole diverse cast there. They don't have to mention it. It's there.
But with all the boys I've loved before, this is a mixed race family.
Yes.
And another an Asian American in the lead.
Mm-hmm.
And and just again, like with Searching, they don't draw attention to it. It just is what it is. This is an American family in 2018, and I felt like that they dealt with certain issues of being a teenager, being in high school. There are a couple moments here where I really felt like, wow, it's not all just about the laughs. There's some serious stuff going on here, some serious conversations that get quite poignant, and I felt like that was really respectful of being a teenager in 2018. I really like this movie a lot. What's your letter grade?
I'd give it an A-.
Yeah, me too. Scott?
C.
Oh, okay. Scott Menzel, you party pooper. No, okay.
Sorry.
Moving on to a film that... What a movie. Okay, so it's on Blu-ray and DVD and in digital. It's on digital now, but it's on Blu-ray and DVD on, I think, September 4th. This is a very divisive movie called Hereditary. This is a film starring Toni Collette, Gabriel Byrne, Alex Wolff, Millie Shapiro, written and directed by Ari Aster, about a family that is cursed, haunted, and terrorized by secrets of his past. Movie made over $44 million domestically, not bad for an independent movie that also screened at Sundance. This is why we love Sundance. Yeah. Now, here's the interesting thing. On Rotten Tomatoes, critics gave it an 89% certified fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. That's the critics. But the users on Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 59%. Big disconnect between critics and movie fans. First of all, Clarke, why do you think that is?
Because I would say, I actually think that that's quite appropriate. I think myself as somebody who comments and looks at films and talks about films, I recognize that this is a great movie. Myself as a fan, I still don't know how I feel about it.
I put this in the show for you,
I know,
Clarke.
when you said that, I was like, oh, Scott, I don't think you know that I don't love Hereditary.
Oh my gosh!
but I don't dislike it either. I think that this divide makes a lot of sense, because when audiences go to a horror movie specifically, and they're being told it's this generation's Exorcist, which was in the marketing materials. This is so A24. They hype and they hype and they hype, and then they go, here you go, mainstream audiences, and they're like, what the hell is this? So I think that these expectations are very lofty for a big release, and this was a big release for A24. So it doesn't surprise me that the reaction is so divided, because my own personal reaction also, that's actually a great representation of how I feel about this movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Scott, what do you think of Hereditary?
You bring up such amazing points. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Seriously, I feel like
You're
she's
welcome.
really bringing on some amazing points.
This is great. This is like the greatest episode of Movie Review Talk ever.
I mean, it is so A24. A24 is like so in love with themselves. Like when they promote their stuff, they're like, this is the best movie ever. It's better than this. It's better than this. It's better than this. And I saw it at Sundance, and it wasn't until I watched it again when it came out and everyone was talking about it that I was kind of like, okay, I see what all the hype's about now. But at Sundance, I kind of was like, it's a little long. It seems a little pretentious in the end.
This was my reaction,
too.
too.
Little pretentious in the end. It's like, oh, really? That's where you're going with this? It's like, okay. And I just felt like everyone's praising Toni Collette in this movie, and she does have multiple layers to her, but she screams a lot, she's looking scared. But no, listen,
But
on my second,
around,
but I came
on
around
the second viewing, and this is what happened to me.
The second time around, I started looking at it a little bit differently and looking at the family dynamic of the movie and seeing how all the interactions worked. And it started speaking to me. I still don't really love the ending, but I really see why everyone was praising this movie in the end.
Let's all agree that the ending is not going to make you jump out and click up your heels and think life is great. It is a bit of a downer, but there are films that most critics, obviously not the both of you, will embrace a film like Mother. Or Under the Skin, an A24 movie with Scarlett Johansson, which people hated.
But I hated that movie.
I loved it. It got under my skin. And you know what else got under my skin is Hereditary. It is unnerving. It is haunting. It is disturbing. And Toni Collette, no question, the best performance of her career, and she absolutely deserves to be nominated for an Academy Award for this movie. I think this movie is a shoo-in for a lot of nominations for like the Spirit Awards, but Toni Collette, without question, does deserve to get nominated for an Academy Award. And Alex Wolff, who plays her son, gave a breakthrough performance. He also had a great, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. That was a great ensemble, a very commercial mainstream movie. But this is like a movie where he really showed his chops.
My Friend Dahmer, he's great in also. My Friend Dahmer is an adaptation about Jeffrey Dahmer. He plays Jeffrey Dahmer's best friend, and Alex Wolff is outstanding in that movie.
But I just feel like when I saw the movie for a second time, knowing how it ends, like there are films like, let's say, The Sixth Sense or The Others, where when you know how it ends, you go back and watch it again and you just watch it differently. Get Out is another movie where watching it the second time, I watched it with a different set of eyes because I knew where it was going. And because of that, I paid closer attention the second time around. And I definitely paid closer attention to Hereditary the second time around. I think this is not for everyone, but I was really taken with it. I thought it made me feel uncomfortable, but sometimes movies will do that. They start conversation like this one did, and now that it's now out and streaming and digital and Blu-ray and DVD, and maybe you'll find a VHS copy if you're lucky. But A24, they're riding high because Moonlight winning Best Picture over La La Land, which still did win Best Picture for 2 hours and 2 minutes and 33 seconds. And it is the best picture of 2006. I can't get through an episode of anything without mentioning La La Land. But, but Hereditary, definitely, here's the thing. So with movies like Hereditary and All the Boys I've Loved Before, and just everything we see on the show, especially Searching, we are really, really curious to know what you think. So please take the time to shoot us a tweet, tag Collider Video, hashtag Movie Review Talk. Hit me up on Twitter at MovieMance, on Instagram at MovieMance. Scott Menzel, where can people find you?
Okay,
online?
So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram because this guy gave me this nickname, The Other Scott M.
The Other Scott M.
You can go to weliveentertainment.com to read all my written reviews and interviews. And then I do 2 little shows as well. I would love to come back on this one. This was a blast. Thank you again so much, Mance, for having me on it. I do Meet the Movie Press, which is on the Popcorn Talk Network at 9 a.m. on Fridays. And then I also do Black Tomatoes with Carla Renata, who's a member of the LA Online Film Critics Society, Carla. And she's amazing.
She is.
And we do that on Sundays at 5 p.m.
Okay, Clarke.
Okay, Scott.
Let's hear it. Where can people find you? Because you're everywhere, as you should be.
Well, you can find me battling for the Schmodown team belt today.
Yes!
Today! So watch your feeds because, as you know, myself and my partner, Rachel Cushing, we really want a belt.
You deserve it, Clarke.
This is my 4th time trying, so please, God, let me win this effing belt. You can definitely keep your eyes peeled for the Team Schmodown. And you can find me at Clarke Wolfe, Clarke with an E, Wolf with an E. And if you liked our little Hereditary conversation, myself and Kaylin Corrigan, who is a great writer, she plays here in the Schmodown as well. She and I did an episode of my podcast called Sending the Wolf on Hereditary, and we unpacked it and we talked for a long time. And it was a great back and forth discussion discussion because we saw the movie a little differently. So you can check that out. It's sending, SENDING, thewolf.com.
And while you're there, make sure you check out our conversation on one of my favorite movies of all time, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And I have to say, that was a great conversation. And I did get quite emotional talking to you about that film because that movie does bring it out of me. And here, ladies and gentlemen, everyone watching on Collider Video, so movie review shows are kind of an endangered species. I grew up with Siskel and Ebert, and the way that show has evolved and morphed into so many other things, and now everything is happening online. And I love doing this show. This is my dream job, to host a weekly movie review show with revolving critics, and I need your help to keep this going. Please make sure you spread the word, share the video, share it to your friends, tell them to share it to their friends. Make sure you like it, make sure you comment below, and make sure you check out our podcast version on Podcast One. Review the podcast version so it goes up and more people discover it. If you don't want to watch it, you can listen to it. But before we go, just an announcement, as you may or may not know. So Alex Trebek, the longtime host of Jeopardy, has been hinting that he's going to step down after hosting Jeopardy for about 1,000 years. Jeopardy is a staple. Jeopardy is an icon, and Alex Trebek is an icon. No one could replace Alex Trebek as the host of Jeopardy, but there is one and only one person who will do justice to Alex Trebek and the legacy of Jeopardy, and that person is Josh McCouga. So here's how you can help. Make sure you go online and hashtag Josh McCouga for Jeopardy. That's number 4 for Jeopardy. And make sure you send your tweets to Jeopardy and to Alex Trebek saying there is no one better suited to carry on the legacy of Jeopardy than Josh McCouga. Do your part. Show them what you're made of. Make your voices heard. This is the guy. No one deserves this more than he does. He was born, Josh McCouga, born to host Jeopardy. So there you go. I better get a drink for that one.
Wow.
So, we are at the end of the summer, and next weekend is Labor Day. And then after that, I'm going to be in Telluride and then Toronto with Scott Menzel. So the next episode of Movie Review Talk will happen the weekend after that. That'll be September 14th. So you got a bit of a break. So we're going to have a lot to talk about on that show because we'll have seen a lot of Oscar contenders. So check back on September 14th. And until then, here's looking at you, kid.
Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode. You want to watch more? Then click up here. Or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. If you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.